welcome to the Oileánach Knits Podcast. I think that's what I'm going to call it. If it's not, then I'm sure the title will be above or something. My name is Heather. I'm a knitwear designer, also a writer and photographer from the island of Newfoundland. Traditionally Ktaqmkuk of the Mi'kmaq, Beothuk, and Inuit people of Labrador. It's a province of Canada in the far, far east, and I live on the island that is out in the middle of the North Atlantic. I've been wanting to start this little podcast for a while now to kind of showcase my knitwear designs, but also kind of the other projects that I've been getting into with wool and textiles lately. Lots of natural dyeing, lots of knitting and designing, but also a little bit of recently started spinning, and just wanting to kind of experiment and play and see what I can create. I've been thinking about doing this for quite some time, but it's currently a bit of a rainy evening and things are a little bit quiet around here, which they haven't been lately, so I thought I would give it a go. I'm sorry if you can hear the rain out the window. I just had some really hot soup and then ran around trying to get everything together before I lost the light, so I'm feeling a little warm. But the rain it's a really beautiful thing right now. There have been wildfires burning across the island for a couple of weeks now, and this is the first rain we've had, so it's a really welcome time. And also, as a big introvert but a lover of summer, I feel like I feel guilty if I retreat and take time inside during the summer, so it's nice to have this kind of forced break to just have a rest and clean things and cook a meal. It's been really nice. So I suppose I'll just dig right in. I haven't, in sort of characteristic fashion, I really have not planned this out at all, just kind of have some ideas of where I'd like to go. So we'll see what happens. I suppose I'll start with some finished objects, because I released my first design a year ago this week actually, so I've built up quite a few things, and I've also got lots and lots of works in progress, because I feel like summer knitting for me is, I live in an island in the North Atlantic, so I don't bother with t-shirts and tank tops and things. I really just kind of use the time to be creative and knit lots and lots of swatches and come up with ideas. So I feel like this summer I've accumulated many ideas. I'm surrounded by project bags. So I'm surrounded by ideas, but don't necessarily have a lot of recent finished objects, but I have a whole year's worth of finished things that have been released as patterns. So I don't have all of them though, because last Christmas I had a little sample sale and sold off a lot of the samples that had been a lot of my first patterns, so I don't have a lot of those. But I think the first one I have is the flower sweater. So when I first started preparing my my designs and preparing to start releasing them, I was in a place where I was trying to learn the Irish language, because that's my ancestral first language, not my first language, but ancestral language. And I was writing a book at the time, so I'm a writer as well. So I was writing a book at the time that was really exploring that ancestry, and it felt like a good tool for connecting with and learning kind of words associated with the landscape, and kind of like connecting with the words that my, family members and ancestors would have used. I'm starting to kind of wonder if that's still, so all of the patterns I've released at this point are named in Irish. I'm sort of starting to wonder if I'll keep doing that moving forward, because I feel like at this point I'm sort of like coming up with working names for them, and then when it's time to release I'll like do a quick Google Translate, and I feel like that's sort of defeating the purpose. So we'll see. This one is actually currently, so yeah, this is the Fuaran sweater. It's knit in Léttlopi. Simple on the bottom, and then it's got this sort of colorwork yoke, and then a contrasting collar. It's currently unfinished actually, because I knit this before I learned how to do short rows. So I recently took out the collar and added short rows, but I haven't gotten around to finishing it and putting my ends back in. So I need to do that. It's just been so warm that it hasn't really crossed my mind, because I haven't been missing wearing this. But yeah, this was inspired initially by, I was thinking I would try to do a sweater pattern for the 4 solstice and equinox days, as they are in the Celtic calendar. So this is Fuaran, which is the autumn one, and so this was kind of inspired by the leaves falling from the trees. And all of my patterns are really inspired by the landscape, and like just the patterns that I see within the landscape. So yeah, that's this one in Léttlopi. I just love how it's like softened and bloomed over time. I love that about Léttlopi. It's so rustic and yet so soft, squishy. Yeah, it's knit bottom up, circular in the round. It's yeah, just your basic, I don't know how to say it, Lopapeza, I think? Lopapeza? I've never known how to say it, but yeah, just, it felt like I was knitting a couple of these by other designers, so it felt like a really natural first step for my first sweater design. Yeah, I get tons of wear out of this. Every time I go to the cabin or like on a hike in the wintertime, this is always under my coat, and it feels so cozy, and I love it. I feel like I should tell you more, but I don't really have much more to say about it. I think the next one would have been this is still one of my absolute favorites. I wear this constantly. The Forish sweater, which is Irish for forest, pretty basic, and it's a boxy cropped sweater with, what do you call them? Is it lice that people call these? It's a funny name, I can't remember. But yeah, just little dots for the snow, and this motif pattern, which it's so simple, but I really just love it. And then a nice thick double collar. And oh, I just love this. It's so simple. I almost didn't knit it at first, actually. When I first designed this, it was based on having gone snowshoeing in the woods with my partner and just kind of seeing the way a really fresh snowfall was hanging on the boughs of the evergreens. And at that point I had just kind of started designing, so I was just looking for inspiration everywhere all the time. And yeah, I drew it up. I did a little sketch when I got home, and it just felt like it was too simplistic, and so I almost didn't do it. But I think I cast on for a different pattern, and then just like kind of wasn't feeling inspired by that pattern anymore. And I was like, I guess like this is the same gauge as that design, so I guess I could just turn it into that, and I did, and I just love it. It's knit in Cascade ecological wool. It comes in these massive skeins it's a bulky weight, but I just held it with a tight gauge. So this is basically, you could do this with an Aran weight pretty easily. I just knit it really, really tight. And that makes such a dense and cozy sweater, but it also makes me feel kind of bulky when I wear it. So, I don't know, I probably would do it. I might do it again in Aran weight or something. Oh, I might do it with, I have a huge stash of Ktaqmkuk right now. Maybe I'll make another one in that. That would be so nice. Yeah, but I really loved, at Cast On Cast Off, one of my local yarn shops, they had this massive display of the ecological wool, and they just had the most gorgeous natural shades, and like really, like this is like, it's taupe and beige are these colors, and I just love how like warm this gray is. Yeah, so I just saw the yarn one day when I was picking something else up. I was probably picking up like, I don't know, a measuring tape or something very low key, and I just saw these skeins and thought they were too beautiful, and I had to buy them with no plan in mind. But I'm really happy I did, because I love this sweater. So then I was really obsessed with the stitch pattern, these little guys, and knit so many things in them after. So that was released, I think, last December. And then I made a little hat that would also, with like the leftover yarn, so it's the same colors, in the Cascade ecological wool. And my hair's in a bun now, and I'm quite warm, so I probably won't put it on. But it's designed to be like very snug fitting, because I found that a lot of my wool hats were letting the wind into my ears, and on the island I live on, there's always wind. It's always there. So yeah, I knit this with a really close, tight gauge, and did, oh no, I can't change the focus because I used my fancy camera. But I'm sure you can see from here, I used a knit 3 purl 1 for the brim, and then sewed it down, but in the pattern it's actually just knit double to hold that in. Yeah, it's very cozy and soft. It's a very soft wool. It's Peruvian Highland wool, I think, which I tend to find really, really soft, and so it's really good for next to skin. Yeah, so that's this guy. That was released, I think, probably in January of last year. And then I was not done yet. And then with my absolute favorite, oh, I should put these on a little stitch holder, or the sock holder, so they would look fancy. But oh well, I'm sure you'll get the picture. So I made these socks with, I can't tell where the focus point is. It's just got the stitch pattern along the top and along the toe with contrasting heel. I use the afterthought heel, it's just kind of how I learned to do it. Yeah, so these are knit in tuku wool, which I love for socks. It's not the tuku wool sock yarn, it's the regular fingering weight yarn, which has no nylon in it. And I find they actually hold up really well. I love them. And they're very, like, they're soft. They feel like a wool sock should feel, you know? It's not that slippery nylon. I'm a big fan of sustainable wools and knitting with no nylon or plastics or superwash or any of that. That's pretty important to me. And I understand that it can be a privileged viewpoint because those kinds of yarn are often more expensive, but it's not the rule. They're not always more expensive, and I just feel like if I'm going to go through all of the trouble to knit my own clothes, then it's not any extra trouble to just do a little extra research and find out how to do that in the most sustainable way. Especially after this summer. I mean, the entire world is on fire. I feel like I need to stop being so lazy about little things. And I'm not generally very lazy with it, and I'm aware of the fact that it's capitalism that's driving all of this, not the individual person who's knitting a pair of socks. But still, if I can make a choice, I will. Anyway, so that's these socks. I actually haven't, I still haven't weaved the ends of these in yet. I haven't started wearing them yet. Terrible. I'm lazy. And I wasn't done with this stitch pattern yet. So I haven't actually done a pattern for these. I just kind of made them up because I needed a pair of mittens. So then I made a little pair of Léttlopi mittens. Gosh, where's the focus point? Right there. Anyway, it's got the stitch pattern as well on the top, and then they're just plain all the way down. Yeah, I haven't made a pattern for these yet. I kind of felt like I was starting to use up the stitch pattern a little bit too often, so I figured I'd leave it at the 3 things, but if people are interested in these, maybe I'd release them. Yeah, I just really needed a pair of mittens and like couldn't think of anything else to put up there at that moment, so I just made these happen. And I actually needed them so desperately that I have not weaved in the ends of those yet either, because I just needed to take them off the needles and start wearing them. Yeah, I'm a really big fan of these actually. These are done in Léttlopi, and I don't know if from there you can kind of see the halo and stuff, but Léttlopi is so rustic that you don't really feel the gaps in between the stitches. It kind of fills in that space by itself, so these have been really, really warm and cozy. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Let me do some more of those. Maybe I'll come up with a different stitch pattern to use or something. Anyway, these are lovely. Oh gosh, I'm just powering right through half of my finished objects already. Spoiler alert, I'm not wearing a knitted sweater right now. Well, it is like a wool sweater, but this is one I bought. I did not knit it. From Ktaqmkuk, if you're interested. They're actually a great Canadian clothing brand that they use a lot of sustainable materials, make small batches, and kind of put a lot of work into being an eco-friendly clothing option. They're not the most accessible, a bit expensive, but I have 2 or 3 things from there that are like great quality and they're going to last a really long time. So that's been something I've been trying to kind of invest in a little bit in the last few years. You know, I suppose I'm at that age where like I'm 30 years old, and so I'm not like quite as poor as I once was, but I don't know, close enough. But so I feel like at this point, if I need something new, I want to sort of make sure it's the best option in terms of affordability, but also sustainability. To be honest though, I thrift most of my clothes. At some point, I'm not sure where these fit in, they're a little bit out of shape right now, but at some point I knit these, the seaweed socks. Famine is the Irish word, which seems a little funky. But yeah, these are also knit just into Gool regular fingering. They have like a contrast cuff, toe, heel, and these little tiny, I don't know if you can see that, little tiny seaweeds. I love them. This color, I can't remember what it's called now. This kind of like greeny yellow. It just seemed like the perfect color, and it just made me think of seaweed, so I decided to go for it. Oh, pardon me. Yeah, I really love these. I wear these all the time. I knit these last August, and I wore them constantly. in like hiking boots, like out for walks and stuff. And so I really kind of wanted to test out and see. They're also the same construction with the afterthought heel knit cuff down. But I also just kind of wanted to see how they would hold up and, you know, kind of test out and see how far just a regular rustic yarn would hold up as opposed to a nylon sock yarn. And they held up really, really well. They're just starting to wear through on the heels right now, but I think that part of that is because they felted, because I accidentally put them in the dryer one time, and so they felted, but I didn't mind that because there was, like, you know, I could stretch them back out a little bit by putting them back on my sock holders, but they did shrink a little bit, so they were snug to my foot, and I think that changed the position of where the afterthought heel seam was under my foot when I was walking, and so it started to wear through just along that seam. Everything else is totally fine, and they're not through yet. There's no holes yet, a year later, but they're getting there. It's gonna happen soon. So I'm thinking I will either, like, I'm not sure if it's because they felted, or if I just need to try a different heel construction, or try to, like, try to reinforce the heels in some way. But before I do my next sock pattern, I will figure that out. They're so soft and cozy though, oh my gosh. It's been a real joy. So next in my finished pile is something that I did a bad job with, and I think that, you know, maybe that's a fun little thing to throw in there, just because we don't always, you know, it's not always a success story, I suppose. So this was my first time doing a lot of things. Here it is. This is my first time doing a lot of things. So I ordered some unspun wool, which was called slubbing cakes from Uist Wool. Uist? I can't remember how to pronounce it now. It's the island in Scotland, Uist Wool. You've probably heard of them. They're absolutely gorgeous. I love their wool. But yeah, so I got some of these unspun cakes from them. And I decided, because they only had a few left of the gray color, so I decided that instead of trying to kind of swatch and like come up with a pattern idea, I decided that I would try freestyling it and just cast on and start knitting it and see what happens, sort of thing. And frankly, it was a joy. It was such a tactile delight working with that yarn, and I held it double with some mohair. I actually held it double with the Katya 50 Shades of Mohair because I didn't read the label and didn't realize that there was polyamide in it. But what do you do? Pardon me. So I just cast on the neckband and started doing raglan increases, which I had also never done before and didn't look up or try to find the information. I just thought I knew what I was doing. I did not know what I was doing. And I was kind of doing raglan increases along this ridge on the shoulder. I thought that would look cool, but I didn't realize that when I broke that pattern, it would make a little peak at the edge of the shoulder. And maybe that would have been fine if it was actually sitting on the edge of the shoulder bone, but because I was just making it up as I went, that wound up sitting down here and made like a little, you know, the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the like Oompa Loompa pants that stick out like this on the thigh. That's what it looks like on my arm, so it's ridiculous. I haven't figured out like what I'm like here's kind of what that looks like. It's super silly. I haven't really like come back to it to try and figure out if there's anything I can do. Oh, did my, oh, okay. I didn't know that my camera was doing this whole focus thing. Oh, it's following me. This would have been good to know from the start. Oh, I've never tried to like record something like this before, so I really don't know. Anyway, very fun. I'll come back to my face now. There we go. Very fun. Anyways, I haven't really thought about what I might want to do to try and fix this or make it a wearable garment yet. But I think I will try at some point. Like I'm thinking maybe there might be some way to, I don't know, like steek this? No, I don't think that makes sense. But to somehow like do some stitching on the outside or something to kind of like fold that big point in. I really don't know. I really don't know. I'm out of my depths in this particular area. So I don't know. I think I'll try and experiment at some point because it is really lovely. Like it's mohair, well, mostly mohair, and like a really lovely Scottish wool. And it would really be a shame to not be able to wear it. I also ran out at some point and had to pick up with some Léttlopi, or Ktaqmkuk. And there were slightly different gauges, so I had to kind of play with it to get it to match up. But anyway, I call this my failure, and that's totally fine. And someday maybe I'll fix it. We'll see what happens. And then I had a little bit of a break going into my Geimreadh sweater. So this was the sweater version of Geimreadh. It's Irish for winter. So this was that. This is knit in the fiber company Lore, and it's honestly probably one of my favorite designs I've done. I wear this every single day. It's currently wet because I was wearing it outside earlier when it was raining. And this is the second one I did actually. So I started with, I knit it in grey in the fiber company Geimreadh, and I was not a fan of that yarn. It's really lovely yarn. It's very like soft and luxurious. It's a blend of merino, mohair, and masham. And I'd never really tried something like that before. That's why I bought it initially, because I was just thinking, you know, it'd be fun to try something a little different. And it was just so soft and sleek that I really didn't like working with it. Like I didn't like knitting with it. I feel like I'm used to knitting with such rustic, sticky yarns that they kind of like hold their own as soon as you've knit them into a stitch. Whereas this one was constantly pulling at itself and like coming out of form. And I don't know, I had no fun. I had no fun knitting with it. It was really frustrating, and I had to start over like 7 or 8 times. That's an exaggeration, but actually probably 5 times, 4 to 5 times, I completely ripped out and started from scratch with it. And I'm honestly kind of surprised that I ever managed to finish it. It took so long to finally finish the sweater. But then to like, you know, just to make sure it was all going well, I knit this version because I didn't feel good about having kind of scrapped together this sweater over like 8 months. So I knit this version in the Lore, which is just a rustic lamb's wool from the fiber company, and I loved it. It was so pleasant. I knit this in like a week and a half, and I'm really a slow knitter. I don't knit very quickly at all, so that was huge for me. But then going into the test knit, there were like, sorry, Apparently my camera will only record for so long at a time. Yeah, so I was talking about the test knit. Yeah, it was really tricky. It was very tricky. There were all kinds of little problems that I kept kind of missing, and then I fixed that problem, and then because of my fix, another little one would show up, and like, this was my fourth sweater that I test knit, and I test knit like lots of accessories in the meantime, and this had never happened to me, but I just had a rough test knit, and I'm really, really fortunate. The people I was working on this test knit with, my test knitters, they were so kind and generous about it and not frustrated at all, and that was really fortunate, and like, it was really nice to have their patience, because I'm definitely the kind of person that would take that really hard on myself, and I did, and I, you know, that whole time I didn't knit on anything else, didn't work on any other projects, because I was just so focused on like, why is everything going wrong, you know? Yeah, so at some point I decided to like call it and kind of tell my test knitters I would give them the pattern once it came, but I started a whole new test knit to like deal with having like started from scratch with the pattern, and then a bunch of things went wrong the second time. There was so much. So that was like a good 6-month chunk of my life where this sweater was the only thing happening. And it was a tough time, but I'm really glad that it, you know, once it was actually finished, it turned into my favorite sweater in the world, and I wear it constantly. And it's just so cozy. So sometimes it's hard, but at least it all came together in the end, which was nice. So that's the end of my finished objects. I have more patterns that are on my Ravelry for sale and stuff, but these are the only ones that I still have the physical object of. A lot of my patterns, or not patterns, a lot of the things I knit I also like gift to people, and so, I mean, mostly my partner, so he's got a stack of knitted things. So yeah, I guess I'll go on to some kind of works in progress, which I think will be fun. So on the topic of the Geimreadh sweater, I've started a cowl, which is going to be like, it'll wrap around 2 times, and I'm knitting this with Lichen and Lace Rustic Heather Sport, which I've always wanted to do something with, but I guess I don't really do things with smaller weight yarns very often, because I don't know, I'm a slow knitter. I'm not that patient. So I like to knit with like a DK or higher to, you know, kind of get through it a little quicker. But this has been a really nice thing for this summer. I've had it, so it's going to be kind of this pattern from the sweater. So this pattern here for half of it, and then it'll have some of these and some of these little ones. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, but it's been a really nice kind of meditative summer knit. That's like, it's small, so it's not sitting on my lap or anything like that, like keeping me warm, and it's, you know, it fits in a tiny little project bag. Support Nico Paolo, my friend who's a musician. She had these little bags as part of her merch, and so I thought it would be perfect for a little knitting pattern, or a knitting bag. So yeah, it's been a nice thing, and it's a repeating pattern for ages, so I don't have to, like, you know, be looking at my phone to get the pattern or anything, and it fits in like a little tote bag or my backpack if I'm going swimming or something. It's nice to kind of have something to take along. Yeah, so this has been all over the island on hikes and swims and literary festivals, book signings, times when I'm supposed to sit still for a long time but not really do anything. This comes along, so that's been getting a lot of I currently have 2 sweaters in the works that are going to come out sometime this fall. I mean, I say that hopefully they'll come out sometime this fall or maybe winter, because they're currently both still works in progress, but I'm kind of like working on them both the same amount, so I have a feeling they're both going to be finished at the same time. So we'll see about that. I currently have a work in progress with a collaboration with Uist Wool, which I'm really excited about, and it makes me even sadder that I'm probably not saying the name right. You would think that trying to learn how to speak Irish would make me better at pronouncing things from Scotland, but it's not always the case. So, I mean, right now it doesn't really look like much. It's just kind of the neckline, and I've just split for sleeves today. So I'm knitting this in their DK wool, comma? No, it's just their DK wool, and comma is one of the colored names, right? Yeah, so this is going to have, all of the exciting part of this sweater is yet to come, because it's going to have a cool stitch pattern along the bottom. It's going to be kind of a cropped, boxy sweater with a stitch pattern across the arms and body. So just imagine that this is going to be so much cooler the next time you see it. And the colors, oh no, this is one of the things about having kind of thrown this together and deciding to just go for it, is that I'm not going to have the color names with me. This one's called Sioban. It's hard to kind of say what the pronunciation would be. Sioban, maybe? Wait, will it do it? It will do it! Sioban. So this is kind of the main color. And this is Cheviot and Hebridean, a DK, weight, 100 grams, 235 meters per 100 grams. So it's a DK, and it's just so beautiful. I saw this on their website. Oh, and the other colors. I can't remember the names now, but I'll put them below, I suppose. That's what people say, right? Are you gonna focus? Okay. Yeah, so it's lovely gray and a lovely natural black. Or like, I suppose it's a very dark brown. Come on, focus. No, it's probably too dark. I probably won't read it. But, I saw these on their website, and a design kind of just sprung to me immediately as I thought about kind of the connection to the island connection and the shorelines, and being a northern island. It's hard sometimes to kind of relate to Canada in the same way. In the sense that, you know, you see like Canadian iconography is all, you know, there's mountains and prairies and plains and all of that. And in our landscape, and as well as I think in some ways the sort of temperament of the people feels very connected to the UK, and obviously a lot of the culture comes from there as well. And that in itself is a bit of a colonial notion, so I feel like that's part of like Newfoundland life, is constantly trying to conceive of this place where we are and how it fits in and who it's for. But, and those are, you know, those are important things to think about, but I also think about, you know, how much more I relate to a yarn mill in Scotland, in the Outer Hebrides in Scotland, than than one, you know, in Saskatchewan or something. And maybe that's partly an island thing. I don't know, but I felt really drawn to try this yarn and to make something for them and with them. Yeah, so I'm really excited about this project. It's sort of my first time collaborating with a yarn producer, and that feels really exciting to me, especially for this project. But you should check I'll leave their like website link below. You should check them out. They've got some really great like videos and walkthroughs of their processes and stuff on their website, and it's really beautiful. I spent hours just poring over them when I first found them. And they do have some unspun yarn, as I mentioned to my fail sweater. So that's something to check out too. I know people are really into those right now. Yeah, okay, so my next big work in progress. This one was actually off the needles for quite a while, kind of stored away, because I love Léttlopi, big fan. But it was off the needles for quite a while because another designer, and one that I really, really love all of her work, and everything she creates. And so she put out a design, or like started kind of posting pictures of this work in progress that was somewhat similar, and like kind of definitely similar in like the main motif. So I felt kind of like I should put mine aside for a little while and kind of work on other things. And I wasn't really sure how to feel about it at first. But in the end, like, especially in the last like year or so, I feel like there's been a lot of these kinds of conversations coming up around designers, you know, potentially copying other people's work, or like, you know, whether or not we have any kind of ownership over our ideas in that sense with knitting. And I feel like we're all kind of inspired by like similar things, especially like I know that I'm a designer that's really inspired by the landscape and incorporating elements of the landscape into the work that I do. And I feel like that's a really common thing in the knit design world. So it's kind of natural that we're all gonna kind of draw from similar things. And this designer is also a Canadian designer, and I think spent some time living in Newfoundland. And so, I mean, I'm not gonna be mysterious about it. The designer is Lichen from the Petite Knitter. The Petite Knitter. Yes, sometimes I confuse petite knitter. But, and like I've been following Lichen's patterns for years. I think they're gorgeous. I have knit like 4 or 5 of her sweaters. I did a test knit for one of her pairs of socks one time. And I think like there's a reason I'm drawn to her patterns, you know what I mean? Like we're inspired by similar things. We both live in the same country and like have spent time in like similar places. And, you know, I think it's natural to be drawn to the same kinds of imagery. And maybe this was like bound to happen at some point. So the one I'm talking about is her caribou sweater. And I mean, the colors are very similar already. And, you know, the caribou motif. So yeah, I put it away for a little while and had to think about it a lot, but I've been like drawn to kind of come back to it in the last month or so, and so I'm gonna finish it and let's see what happens. Yeah, so the design was actually inspired by this recurring dream I was having for a while. I mean, I'm still having it sometimes, but I was having it a lot a few summers ago, where it was a dream of like an ancestral cabin. And I would hike over the hills, or I would canoe down the river to this cabin, and you know, kind of find it out of use and a little bit kind of neglected, and I would start to kind of clean it up and make it a home, you know, and make it my space, and then kind of find out that like my dad would show up and be like, oh, I promised this to your cousin or something, and so there'd be this like monumental sense of loss of like it being kind of like torn down and renovated sort of thing, and not getting to, you know, participate in it as it was. And a caribou would visit me then and sort of like lead me to a different space. So it was really intense. I have really wild dreams. That's one thing that I really thrive on, my weird dreams. I love them so much. They're like little psychedelic postcards from your subconscious. Anyway, so I was inspired afterward to create a design. I haven't actually gotten to the motif part yet. I've only, oh no, did I just, okay, no. I thought it just fell off the the stitch holder. But yeah, so this is going to be a cardigan knit in Léttlopi, and it has, I mean, I haven't gotten to the fun part yet. I feel like that's the thing with all of my whips. I haven't gotten to the fun part where the color work is. But, so it's got a little motif on the bottom and a contrasting, the button band. This is my first time I'm going to steek something. I'm terrified. So the button band and the collars or cuffs will be the contrasting color. And I've got my sleeves done, finally. That's taken a long time because I feel like there's like a lot of like increases going on in a small space, you know? That kind of thing takes me a long time to get through. So I've got those done finally, so in the next little bit I'm going to, maybe even this evening actually, I'm going to join it all up and knit the yoke, which I have a swatch, but it's upstairs and maybe I won't show you that. But anyway, that's where all the good stuff in the caribou is. So that's that one. I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to wearing this for like several years, and I feel like I should have just knit it at the time and then just like taken a while to put the pattern out, but for some reason that's not how I was gonna do it. And then I suppose we can move on, speaking of Lichen and the petite knitter, to a work in progress I have for one of her sweaters, which again, I've had this on my needles for ages, but it's so tiny. It's knit with fingering weight yarn, and I added a silk mohair for fun because I wanted it to be kind of like soft and squishy. And it is I think it's the Wood Folk is what it's called. So I'm just like toward the end of the yoke there now. And like I said, I've been working on this for ages, but I keep needing my 3mm needles for other things and putting this on like scrap yarn. But it's so beautiful and I can't wait to wear it. So then, if you know the pattern, like this is the end of the yellow, and then the sleeves and the body are in white. And I love the colors I picked for this. I chose the yellow is the, what is it, like the dark yellow mustard or the dark yellow gray or whatever it is from, hello, come back to me, there we go, from Bouche, le Petit Lamb's Wool. And then I'm actually using, for the white, I'm using Icelandic lamb's wool. It's a very local yarn from Last Resort Farm, and it's all like handwritten and everything. White 3-ply fingering weight, 325 yards. So it just kind of matched up. I think it's a tiny bit smaller than the Bouche, but I don't know, I saw this, I can't remember where I got it now. I got it online at a small yarn store in either New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, and it was local. It's still got twigs in it. I love that. I love that. And it's so soft. I could die. I just love it. Anyway, I have been looking for something to do with it because I don't think I'd knit in white that often. But I thought it would be really nice with the mustard, and it really is. And then just the silken mohair with it. I really got to get back on this. I really want to wear this sweater. I'm so excited for it. But I just feel like I haven't had a ton of time for knitting lately. So I've been kind of devoting that to my own designs. But I can't wait to wear this. It's going to be beautiful. And so soft and cozy. Okay, alright, maybe this is what I'll do tonight. But I am actually currently using my 3mm needles for something else. And where I usually knit with bigger wools, I don't have like multiple tiny needles. And then the last kind of work in progress I have for knitting is this little sack of socks that are all halfway done. And they're all for my partner. I had this brilliant idea last year. I was going to knit him a bunch of pairs of socks for his birthday. And obviously I started them all and finished none of them, which is rude. But then I knit him a sweater to make up for it. Because somehow it's quicker and easier for me to knit a sweater than to knit socks. I'm like, yeah, I suppose that's just how my attention works. So I have the aforementioned socks I test knit for Lichen at the Petite Knitter. And these are in his size, my partner's. And these are the snow frost socks, and I think they're just stunning. Like, I think they're genuinely the most beautiful pair of socks I've ever seen in my life. But I knit these, this is my first pair of socks I ever knit, and I knit them in superwash nylon kind of sock yarns, and I just hated working with it so much. It just feels gross. And so I really haven't been able to bring myself to knit the second sock. I have the cuff done. I have like just the cuff done, but just don't wanna. I can't wait to actually like re-knit these in a nice rustic yarn though. I think they're just gorgeous. I can't wait to have a pair. So this was the yarn is beautiful. It was like a hand dyed, indie dyed skein of you can kind of see the color variation through it, which I think works really nice where it's got the white throughout. You can kind of, you know, you've got your variation, but it doesn't just kind of look stripy back and forth. From Emily C. Gillies was this yarn sock dyer. Oh, it's getting stormy out there. I have to close the window. Yeah, so these are beautiful and I'm excited to give them to him, but I need to knit the other sock first. And then these are also kind of in progress. My partner's a mathematician and I thought I was being hilarious by knitting this little like math fair isle. And I was being hilarious, but the problem is that I gave up at some point and I need to finish them. It was just a lot going on with so many different colors that like I kind of regret using so many different colors on a sock because it's going to be a million ends to weave in. And I just don't feel like it. I never really feel like knitting socks, even though I think socks are probably one of the most valuable things to have knitted. So I'll have to deal with that some other time. But I think these are hilarious and I want him to like show up at work wearing these and it'll be hilarious for me. It's gonna focus? Probably not. Nope. Nope. There we go. There we go. So we've got some little triangles and some square root down here. I copied the symbols from an equation that he had posted on Instagram. Yeah. But yeah, that's the end of those little whips. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of what I've been working on. I might show you, I've been working on some natural dyeing this summer, which has been so much fun, and I think I'll probably show you that next. I'm gonna close the window now, 1 second. Okay, here we go. It was definitely time. My windowsill is like soaked. Oops. Okay, so I've been wanting to try natural dyeing for years, but I was a little intimidated by the process, particularly of like needing to have a really well ventilated kitchen space or something in order to dye using pots, and I did not have a well ventilated kitchen space. I had a super tiny kitchen space and the windows were like painted shut. So I tried solar dyeing 2 years in a row, where I'd you put all the chemicals and the natural the plant matter into a glass jar with the yarn, and you just let it kind of do its thing in the sun, using the heated sun for a couple of weeks or months or whatever. And we don't get that kind of sun in Newfoundland. We really don't. I tried 2 summers in a row and it did not work both times, and it was really gross. And like having to kind of fish everything back out of those jars at the end of it was a mess. And I did not dye anything. So I finally this year decided to get it together, and I bought a hot plate, and I picked up some giant stainless steel pots at the thrift store, and bought some aluminum and stuff like that online. And I finally got it together, and I bought this book called The Wild Dyer. It's just kind of what was available at my local thrift store. It's pretty good. Like, it gives you a really good kind of walkthrough of how to make the dye, which is all I was really looking for, and like how to dye the thing, basically. And then it kind of has like some recipes for, or not recipes, like instructions for doing different kinds of crafts and things like that, if you're interested in that sort of thing. So I mostly just used it for the instructions, and that was, that worked for me. And I went foraging and picked tons and tons of different things. Well, not tons and tons, a very manageable amount that I knew I could use before like I would have to throw it out or something. And I picked some yarrow and fireweed and alder cones and dock, curly dock, and I can't remember what else now, but that was like the first set I did. And then I was at my parents' for dinner one night, and my parents live in like this like clear pardon me, a clearing like in the middle of the woods that's like surrounded by a subdivision, but like that property is old enough that it's still quite big, and like there's enough forest around it that you don't hear anybody. It's kind of amazing. It's a magical place. And my stepmom is a very avid gardener, so I didn't kind of think I was gonna be able to find anything out there, because I assumed it would be, her garden. But I found lots of things around the periphery of the woods, and I got some goldenrod, and some meadowsweet, and another kind of flower that I can never remember the name of. I had to get her to text it to me the next day because I already couldn't remember what it was, and I've forgotten again, obviously. But some like very bright yellow flower that's a weed, an invasive plant, and that was really special. I got some great things out of them, and I'll just show you. These are all the dyes. Sorry, I hit 30 minutes again, I suppose. So yeah, these are the dyes I've gotten so far. It's kind of like, you can tell it's kind of a range of kind of like pale yellowy greens, this sort of thing. And some of them are definitely more fun than others. A couple of favorites so far are, this is yarrow with iron, and this is fireweed roots and leaves, or not roots, stems and leaves with some goldenrod added in afterward. And I think that's really beautiful. It's like a really nice, bright, kind of leaning toward mustardy yellow. So I'd like to experiment with that some more. This is a favorite too. It doesn't look like it's much, but the base yarn was actually like a bright white. So this is dandelion root, which I got helping my friend. Hello again. My camera battery died, so I had to take a little break and charge it, have a little snack. It was actually quite nice. Didn't realize how hungry I'd gotten. Yeah, so I realize this is probably getting quite long for a start, so I think I'll just try to kind of clue up. I did want to show you some more of my dyes, but then I'll sort of clue up, I think. It's getting actually quite late here now. It's dark and probably not the best lighting for this anymore. But anyway, so I think I was talking about the dandelion root. This is one of my favorites. It was actually a natural white yarn. I used Wool of the Andes from Knit Picks. And so it's really lovely how this turned out. It's sort of, at first it kind of seemed a bit of a pale yellow, but I think it's more so like a nice beige, which is really nice. I didn't actually use that much dandelion root. I was helping a friend who runs a neighborhood association, fixing up a park in the city that, it was a bit of a dodgy park, a lot of trash and stuff like that in there, and so he kind of is helping to kind of clean it up and planted a lot of fruit trees and fruit bushes and some beautiful flowers and things, so it's really lovely in there. And I was helping him do a bit of weeding one time earlier in the spring, and he helped me collect all of the dandelion roots, and that's kind of what finally motivated me to go ahead and buy the pots and everything. Yeah, I'm not sure that there's even that many exciting ones going on because they're all very similar. A lot of like kind of pale yellows, and then I would add an iron bath to, you know, see if I could get something else going on. So this is fireweed leaves with iron, and this one is fireweed leaves. Oh, that's just the plain fireweed leaves without the iron. It's probably harder to see in this kind of lighting as well. And this was the fireweed with the goldenrod and then iron. And this is just plain yarrow. And yeah, so I've mostly been working with those few things at this point. This is the flower of the fireweed with a bit of iron. It's a really nice kind of pale sea foamy color, which is quite nice. Yeah, so that's what I've got so far, all of these colors. And well, it's probably getting so dark at this point that it's hard for it to focus. Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of dyeing this week, and it's been a really fun project to dive into. I got one of those apps on my phone to identify the wildflowers, and I've just been going on hikes and finding out what all the plants are, which has been a really fun experience in itself. And a couple of them I follow Alex from Ancestral Crafts. I really love her podcast. It's one of my favorites, and I'm one of her Patreon members, and so she sends out these Herb of the Month newsletters, pardon me. So that's been really fun as well for learning about different herbal, different possibilities with wildflowers and herbs. And I've been thinking of doing some more projects with the herbs, like my partner's really into cocktails, and so I was thinking I might try to like learn how to make bitters with some of them, and just little projects like that. I feel like when the fall comes, that's always a very kind of introspective time for me, and a crafting time, and that's usually when I feel most inspired to kind of go foraging and to craft things and learn new things. I'll actually be in school this September, which is a little daunting, so I'm not sure how much time I will have, but that's something I always really enjoy. And I suppose this time of year, or this time of the summer, where things start to feel a little bit more like fall, I start thinking of all these different things I can do and all the things I want to make. I'm a big lover of pie and soup, and so I'm a big fan of of the fall for those things. And for like I'm keen on foraging as well in terms of food. I haven't been out much this summer actually, but gone out for chanterelles a few times, and blueberries, which are just kind of starting to come ripe now here on the island. So those are exciting things. But mostly we've been having a very hot, dry summer, which is very untypical for us. So I've been doing a lot of swimming, which not something I usually do at all. And that's been really lovely, really freeing. I usually go for a lot more hikes, but it's been too hot. So just kind of spending time with friends and enjoying a hot summer, even though it's very daunting because of what it means, but trying to sort of spend time outside and do those sorts of things anyway. Yeah, so I suppose I'll wrap up now. It feels very, very nice to have finally kind of done this. I hope it's okay. I hope the light isn't terrible and all of those sorts of things. But I suppose if it's bad, I'll just try something different next time. Thank you so much for kind of being here and spending this evening with me. I've got patterns on Ravelry as Oileánach Knits, which I'll spell down below. It's Oileánach, and my name is Heather Nolan. I think I'm one of those people that Ravelry has my actual full name for my designs instead of my kind of business name or whatever. But I'm also on Instagram as Oileánach Knits, and I don't know, I've toyed with having a website, but it doesn't really seem necessary. I feel like Instagram and Ravelry kind of do the work on that front. I guess if you're interested in my writing, I've got a writing website and photography. That's at heathernolan.ca. I hope next time I'll have some more finished objects for you. I'm a very slow knitter, so who really knows? But I'll definitely have lots more dyes. I've got 2 more pots going on downstairs right now, and I've got a whole rack of colors drying, so there'll be lots more of those. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll finish a sock or something. Doesn't seem very likely, but you never know. I've also, I forgot about spinning. I don't really have much to show you in terms of spinning. I've only just started learning, and I've got sort of a bag of, is it Cheviot? Corriedale? I feel like it's Corriedale. Anyway, I'll just have the information and I'll show you next time. Yeah, and I've just been learning on a drop spindle, because it seems like the most accessible thing. We don't have local yarn here in Newfoundland. There's no wool mill here, and there's nobody producing wool. So I think my kind of goal is to be able to buy fleeces from local sheep farmers, because local sheep farms, it's too expensive to ship it off the island to get processed, and so most of it just kind of gets thrown out. And so my goal with spinning is to learn how to sort of learn all the steps and the processes that go between a fleece and hand spun yarn, and I hope to be able to at some point work with full fleeces, but I know that's a bit daunting as a first step without even knowing how to spin. So I'm working on learning how to spin for now, and I've just got some of my Corriedale. I got in like little bags from an online shop, and I can't remember where it was now. But anyway, I'll look that up before I show you in the next episode, I suppose. And maybe I'll show you some of the other things I've been crafting with wild herbs as well. I think that would be fun. Yeah, so I guess if there are things you want to see, or if you want anything in particular, maybe let me know. I don't know. It's my first time sort of trying this, so I'm not totally sure what to be at or what to do outside of the basic knitting things. Yeah, I hope you have a really lovely day or evening. Hope you've managed to find a bit of peace and quiet and rest in the last little while, as I have here tonight. And I hope the rain comes for your fires as well. Thanks for being here. See you later.